Hey guys, Kid of Burn 1 here with Love Live Sunshine deck profile. This is the deck I'll be using at the Indiana Regional that's happening this weekend. Hopefully I'm going to place top 8 here. I'm unsure if I'm going to make any last minute changes, but this is the version I've been playtesting for the Regional, and I've liked it so far. There's like a couple cards I'm thinking about switching out, but I mean if I make that change I'll do a follow-up video in my tournament report video that I'll be doing after the Indiana Regional. My thoughts on Love Live Sunshine, at least for the English meta, is that the deck definitely isn't top tier. It isn't in tier 1 with all the other strong competitive decks like Sword Art Online and like Attack on Titan and Two Love Ru and stuff like that. In Contact Collection, I don't think it's at that level yet, at least. But I know there's a second set coming out in Japanese, and so hopefully that set comes out for English also pretty soon, so we can get a little power up there. But this set for the most part is really lackluster at level 3, but it has a decent like 0 and 1 game for the most part. So it's definitely a solid like tier 2, maybe tier 1.5 deck. Alright, let's get into the deck itself. So this is the full deck itself. The game plan really is to kind of abuse your level 1 game to set up Hanamaru level 3s at level 2, since it comes into play early and it heals you. And it also has a climax combo that lets you gain, like basically compress a little bit more. When you play the climax, you can pick a music character from waiting room, put it in the stock, and then the Hanamaru gains like 3k until the end of opponent's turn, which like lets you build up a really big wall at 2, and then if your opponent can't deal with it, they just kind of get very sad. Alright, so our level 0 game here. We have our beaters for the most part on the left side. We run 4 Yoshiko level 0 runners. It's basically a generic mill runner. On attack, it gives 500 to one of your other music characters. It's just a good card to have at 0. It lets you accelerate your game a little bit by causing your opponent to deal more damage to you, so you can get to 1 faster. And then also it lets you save a card for if you run away from one of your opponent's attacking characters. But what makes this card a little bit better than normal is that the following card, the level 0 Mari here, it's a 3,500 beater as long as there's 1 or less other characters on the field, but then it also gives the other character 1,500 power. So you can have Yoshiko and Mari out on turn 2 and have two 3,500 beaters out, and one of them being a runner, which can be really annoying for your opponent, especially if they don't have any bombs and ways to clear off these characters. And then finally we run 3 level 0 bombs or suiciders, and it's just generic suicider, but it has a secondary effect, which is when this card goes to waiting room, you can pay 2 to salvage a character. I like the secondary effect a lot, especially if we end up playing multiple characters and then triggering a climax along the way. This lets us pay out the climax and get a character we need, possibly at 1 or 3. And then on the right side here we have basically all our support cards. We run 4 Rico Brainstormers. It's a brainstormer and we need it, and it's a salvage brainstorm, which isn't bad. It has another effect too. When one of your other characters gets reversed in battle, you can give another character 500. It can be a little bit annoying for your opponent to deal with it sometimes, but with the way the deck is laid out and everything, it's not that big of a deal. But you know, it's a small ability that can be kind of annoying for your opponent sometimes, especially if they have low power level ones. Next, we run 2 of these Dia supports, Global 500, which is always good. And then the second effect is whenever your opponent uses Brainstorm, if they mill a climax, you can draw 1 and ditch 1. Second effect's pretty good, especially if your opponent likes to brainstorm a lot. It lets you filter your hand really quick, and when you know you're really low on climaxes, it helps you burn through your deck a little bit more. And then, you know, the Global 500 is always good. We only run 2 because we don't really care that much about what our back row looks like because of how the level 1 game is in this deck. It's very weak on our opponent's turn, so everything usually dies no matter what. And then any of our strong cards that combo with the Stock Soul, the Rika level 1 Suicider, those just die on your turn most of the time, unless it's your first turn into level 1, in which case then usually they live because you can kill level 0 with it. Then finally we run 1 Dia on play, top check. If it's a music character, add to hand, discard 1, and then the second effect is when this card goes to waiting room, you can pay 1, clock yourself, draw 1. It's okay utility card, lets you filter out climaxes from your hands or dig a little deeper to find what you need. Also pluses you 1 if you pay 1, clock yourself, and draw 1. It's not an amazing card, but it's good enough to run at least 1 of in the deck. If you don't really like this card, you'd probably want to run the Ruby Searcher. It's an uncommon. But I run it because it's blue mostly. It can plus my hand, especially turn one. If I play this, it's not that bad as a turn one play. And then I need a little bit, like I said, I need a little bit more blue in this deck because we do run a level 2 blue card. On to level 1 game. This is basically our level 1 game. We run 4 Chica. The card has 2 abilities. Is that if all your characters are music characters, it becomes a level 1 bomb, so it's always a level 1 suicider. The second effect, it climax combos with the red stock soul. When it reverses a battle opponent, you can salvage a music character, or I believe it's a music character, from your waiting room into your hand. This lets us set up our level 2 game plan and possibly level 3 and build a really good hand for later in the game. The second card on the right there, the 1-0 Ruby, we only play it for one ability, which is on play ditch. Look at top 4, add a music character to the hand, discard the rest. This card's great because it helps you hand filter a lot, and then also it helps you set up for your main game plan, which is the Hanamaru level 3, since that card comes into play early when you're level 2 and have 2 or less climaxes in your waiting room. It lets you dig through your deck to set up that scenario, so you always kind of refresh at like 1/6, and then that keeps more cards out of your deck and lets you compress better, and at the same time setting up the early play Hanamarus. Then finally we run 3 Rico 1-0 beaters. It's a 5,000 on play, gains 500 for every music character you have. So basically it's just really big on your turn to kill whatever annoying thing you want to kill. If something gets like +1 level, you can't really kill it with the Chica bombs, so you play this Rico and then kill it, and then usually on your opponent's turn they just kill this thing. It doesn't really matter, and that's why we only run 3 of it, and that's it for 1. We don't really run any counters at 1 or anything because, like I said, everything on my opponent's turn is so weak it's just gonna die. One downside about the level 1 game we have here is that if your opponent puts up a really big wall, you're kind of just screwed, especially if they have a bunch of level, like they all gain like a level. You can't bomb anything with the Chica, you can't get anything off the climax combos, so you can fall apart there a little bit, but usually that's not the case with most decks. I think the only deck that I would be scared of that would be maybe Silence Voice, if people still play that. I don't know why people would still be playing that. They do run that 0-0 counter that gives a character +1 level, so it can mess up your Chicas and everything. Besides that though, your Chica usually does die, leaving an open spot on your field at 1, which potentially, depending how compressed you are or how many climaxes are out, could backfire and favor your opponent since they get extra damage out of that spot. But if you're compressed and you have like 7 climaxes left in your deck at 1 and you play 3 Chica and they all die, all plus you 1, and then your opponent swings back and you just cancel 3 times because of all that extra damage, might make your opponent very sad. But it's just a double-edged sword. You got to be careful too. Also, forgot to mention, like the Contact Collection matchup, Chica is not as good in that matchup since you can only really get 1 combo off in 1 lane because of the anti-salvage, if people are still playing the anti-salvage, which I assume they are in English since there's still no ban list. And that could be quite annoying, especially if you have the only thing you can really play is 3 Chicas. 2 of them are just kind of going to waste. Alright, on to level 2 game here. Oh, well, actually level 2 and 3. I forgot I put this together. So basically, our level 2 plan is mostly support cards. We have Kanan support, gives 2k to level 3s and higher in front of this card. Basically, it's kind of helps support our level 3 and level 2 game for the most part when we play the Hanamarus, but we don't really play this card a lot. The second effect is tap 2 characters, draw 1, ditch 1, which is alright if you're kind of digging for the climax combo, because you don't have it. You can kind of get lucky off of that. Same thing with the 2-1 Mari counter there. It's just a generic 3k counter, but it has a secondary ability. When you play it from your hand to the field, you can draw 1, ditch 1. Helps you dig for a climax combo if you're really looking for it. Then next we have this Chica level 2. It's a 2-1 Chica. It has its first effect is when it comes into play, reveal the top card of your deck. If it's a level 0 or lower character, you can put it to stock. So this is essentially a 2-0 card, which we almost never play, really. There's not that many times where we actually need this card because of our game plan being the level 3 Hanamaru, but occasionally you do end up needing this card. And then second effect, if I can remember off the top of my head, it like gains power or something when it fights a level 3 or higher, and so it's a level 3 early play killer for the most part. It's probably the worst card in the deck in my opinion. I'd like outside of what else? Like maybe the level 3 Yakisoba event. And then next is the 2/2 Ruby. This is something new I put in recently now that I started playing Sunshine a lot more. It's a really good card. It helps you pay out climaxes at 2, but still conserve your stock. And then it's just a really good 2 beater that can be like 10k, and your opponent can't choose it as an for one of their effects or whatever. They can't choose it as a target, which can be really good late in the game, especially if your opponent doesn't realize they can't choose it. They might mistakenly waste anti-damage counter it, since there's 2 sets now that have anti-damage counters, being 2 Love Root and Contact Collection. You can play this at 3 and attack with it first and see what they do, and then if they misplay, just you plus so hard off of it. And then, like I said, it's a 2 soul beater and it's at 2, and that's our game plan, is really to push the damage at 2, especially when we play the Hanamarus. Sometimes we can't play the Hanamaru early because of unfortunate canceling 4 times right after refresh for whatever reason, and then it's our turn. We can't really play the Hanamarus. Then the 2/2 Ruby's the backup. The effects it has is for every other music character gains 500. So generally it's 2285. The second effect is if there is the 1/0 Ruby that we play at 1, if it's in the waiting room at the start of both attack steps, it gains 1k power, and the effect that your opponent can't choose it for an effect. And then the last thing is if there are 4 or more other music characters when you play this card, you can pick a music character from your waiting room and put it into stock. So basically this is a 2/1, 2 soul, 9/5 beater, and then usually you have a support out, so it's about 10k usually. I think it's a really good card and really good one of. All the games I've played ever since I put it in has been, it's performed amazingly, and I honestly kind of want to put 2 in, but I think that's kind of overkill. But I've been thinking about it lately. I don't know if I'll make that change. I probably won't going into the regional, but we'll see what happens. Finally, we get to our level 3 game. The Hanamaru there, like I said before, if there's 2 or less other climaxes in your waiting room, this loses a level in your hand, so you can play this at level 2. And then the climax combo it has with the shot trigger, which is pick a music character from your waiting room, put it to stock, and basically gain 3k till end of your opponent's turn. It's a really good card because it's essentially a 3/1 beater with 2 soul. It's great. And then the last effect is when it comes into play, it heals 1, so it prolongs your level 2 game even more, which is just great. That and Hanamaru is probably my favorite character of the new Sunshine, so it's really hard for me not to play her. And then we get on to our other level 3 game here. We run 1 Yoshiko level 3. This is kind of another tech to get rid of opportunities for our opponent to anti-damage counter and things like that, or sack a character or whatever they're going to do. Essentially, when this card comes into play, you pick one of your opponent's cards in the front row, level 3 or lower, and put it back into their hand, then Yoshiko gains 2k. And then the second effect is amazing too, since it's on attack, pay 1, ditch 1, give all your characters 501 soul. That can be really useful in combination with the climax to help you side level 3s for 1 for precise damage. Next, we run 2 of the level 3 rubies. It has, when it comes into play, it gains shot trigger for the turn, which is great. And then I believe it gains power or something. I forget. It gains power or something else for playing a climax. I think it gains 1500 power if you play a climax, which is alright. And then the last effect, which is the main reason I put this in the deck, is it has a pay 2, give itself and another character +1 soul. So you can kind of set up precise soul damage without a climax, or if you need more soul somewhere so you can side more easily, or if you want to try to set up that side for 1 and burn them for 1 with the trigger. Then finally we run 1 more Chica level 3. It's just an overstated healer basically. And then finally we have 2 of the Yakisoba Yo events there. I played in the deck just because the deck, if you've noticed, really lacks any in-game game plan to kill people on your turn, as soon as you hit 3, where a lot of other top decks do have that game plan. We use this to kind of use this extra stock we built throughout the game from all the combos and stuff, and then also scare our opponents into probably attacking incorrectly, or if our opponent doesn't expect it, they can just randomly die. So basically, this is give one of our characters two. It's a 3/2 event counter. Give one of our characters 2,500 power for the turn, and then mill the top card of your deck. If that card is level 1 or higher, your opponent just burns 5. So I've only used this counter a couple times where it's killed people, especially in situations where I didn't think it would kill them. They just randomly die. It's a decent card. I don't know if I'm gonna keep it in the deck for the weekend or not. I might end up cutting it, but it's something I think worth trying out and maybe running still. I might keep it just because I think a lot of people won't really know what's going on with this deck since it's still kind of new in English, and the burn 5 is hilarious, which is like the best part. So I'll bring up the full deck again so you guys get one more look. If you guys end up having any other questions about the deck or anything like that, just leave it in the comments below. I'll try to answer what I can. I'm going to be doing a follow-up video after the regional this weekend, how my tournament went, and break down every match. And hopefully you guys can get some more insight in that. I really think Sunshine is kind of like a tier 2, maybe tier 1.5 deck right now. I'll see what happens. This is my first English event I've played in like a year or more now. My last English event, I placed like 20th place or something like that in like a room of 300 players. And last time I was playing Sao or something like that. I can't remember anymore. And then, yeah, I hope to hit top 8 with this deck and possibly win the event. I feel very confident about winning. Most of the top players, quote-unquote top players around this area, I've played before, and I do decently well against them, and I'm not too worried about that. And I think the events here are a little bit smaller than when I was in California. I think they only get like over 100 here, whereas in California it was always like 250 to like 300 plus players at every event, which can be annoying. And also, I did get a buy card for this weekend. That way, first match, I already have a win. So hopefully everything works out. Can't wait to come back with and do the video, the follow-up video for this event. Alright, if you guys enjoyed this, like, comment, subscribe, ask any questions below, and then hopefully I get to it later in our next video. Have a good day.